Hey everybody, and welcome to Hell is for Children. This show is on every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 2100 hours Central European Time. And my name is Geerte Frenken, and this show is all about the topic of protective mothers and their children. So, what's a protective mother? A protective mother tries to protect her child or children from their abusive fathers by many means necessary, which is an uphill battle in today's global corrupt family court system that thrives on paternal entitlements. And I want to start today thanking everyone who attended the court watch in my case this week. It was very helpful. If you have followed my case, you know that my ex tried to get the court to grant him unrestricted international travel with my daughter. But during the hearing last Tuesday, Judge Adams of Marin County Superior Court denied his request, so we were successful, and I'll show my screen here for a second so you can see the post that I made about this on my website, freejasmine.com. If you go up here to recent posts, you see that he was not allowed to get his unrestricted international travel request, so that was great. And thank you everyone for attending, and a big special thank you to the protective mothers who were there in person. Some mothers actually drove 4 hours to be present, and I'm extremely grateful. You know, I'm going to go on. We've just gotten started. So thank you everyone. And if you want to be in a court watch, if you want to present a court watch in this show, just email me the information, and I'll present it over here. So last but not least, in the section of announcements, I want to let you all know that this program, to keep it on the air, I need funding. So I'm sharing my screen here so you can see that I have a GoFundMe page for this show. Just go to Hell is for Children on GoFundMe, and you can make a donation, and any type of donation is very, very welcome to keep the show on the air. We need about $100 a month. So thank you so much, everyone. And without further ado, I want to introduce my guest of today, which is protective mother Chrsti Maclaren. And she lost custody of her 5-year-old daughter to her abusive ex, despite the fact that her ex admitted to a severe drug addiction to methamphetamine and cocaine, and despite evidence of child molestation. Sounds like a very familiar situation, Chrsti. Thank you for being on today on Hell is for Children. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, yeah, like I said, it's a kind of a familiar situation. You and I are in the same boat. And, you know, when I share my story with people, they say like, well, how can that happen? You know, and here you are in the exact same situation. So why don't you share with the audience how you arrived in the situation you are in today with your daughter?
I arrived in this situation with my daughter at a really young age. My daughter started having behavioral problems when she was having visits with her biological father, which I thought was maybe just a little normal considering he had been in and out of the picture for a period of time, and she just wasn't used to him. And but it slowly became very intense. She started complaining about certain things and was very worrisome.
Let's go back to when you got pregnant. Were you living with the father at this point? Were you married?
No, we were not married. We were on and off again for over a year. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was actually getting ready to be deployed to Haiti with the American Red Cross for disaster relief. I found out I was pregnant. I notified the father. At that time, he said he wanted nothing to do with us or the baby. So I moved up to Oregon and started to raise my life and plan for the child and her future.
So you weren't, he didn't want the baby. You guys weren't living together. You were living alone. And so how did he show back up in the picture for the both of you?
Before I had my daughter, he decided to come up here and give it a go. So wanting to give that opportunity to the father, he came up for a period of time, which we found ourselves homeless, and him doing drugs without me being aware of it and such. And when Mahaley was 3 months old, at that time we were living all together in the house, and he decided he didn't want us to live there anymore. So he kicked me and the baby out, at which time we went to go and live with my parents and start over again, start fresh.
Right, and it's probably a good idea since he was using drugs, but you said you didn't know at the time that he had relapse or that he was doing drugs?
Yeah, I didn't really realize what was going on. I don't know at the time. I never saw him doing drugs other than smoking marijuana. But his behavior was really erratic. There was missing periods of the day where he would say he would be going to work. There was just a lot of telltale signs, and just him not wanting to get any help, and just the behavior just in general was just not on par at all. Couldn't keep a job, wasn't making good decisions, missing money. Family members would give money to us. The money wasn't used to pay bills, rent, utilities. It just would be missing, vanishing. He would be gone for long periods of time. So it was a very difficult time being a new mom and having an infant and having this kind of situation. So
So I understand you weren't aware that he was doing drugs, but there were telltale signs that now when you look back at it, you realize what was going on. But he ended up kicking you out, which is interesting. But it just shows that he can handle the situation. And so you start living with your parents, with the baby. And what happened then?
He would go long periods of time without wanting to see her. Moving around, being in homeless camps along the river, in and out of jobs, lots of missing time of contact. Then randomly a call saying that he wanted to see her and he wanted her to have unsupervised visits with her when he was homeless at times. And this went on until until one day he decided that he was going to be leaving the state and getting a job. And he was arrested in California for drugs and extradited back here to Oregon. And shortly after that period of time, he requested to have overnight visits with the court, and the custody began at that time.
Okay, so the case went to court, and what happened then?
At that time, he did not want full custody. He just wanted visiting time. He requested to have overnight visits. I obtained full custody by the courts, and we proceeded forward with the overnights, even though it was against what I had requested. The courts and the attorneys said that he's the biological father, even though he's had this drug problem, that he has the right to be able to have overnights with his child. So that's in fact what ended up happening. And when that started happening, we started discovering a lot of different behavioral problems that family members had observed with the child.
So let's pause in the story here for a second, because you bring up a really important point. Same thing happened in my case. The case went to court, and evidence was presented that the father had a severe drug addiction to heroin and crack cocaine, and he admitted to this. And at this point, like in your situation, he was granted unsupervised visitation. this is a real serious problem. We need to somehow make these courts aware that, I mean, you would think that a person with a normal brain would understand that this would not be the right thing to do for a small child to be placed in unsupervised visitation with someone who has addictions to such serious drugs, which cause dangerous behavior and put the child in harm's way. And I have a big question mark. It's like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
It's one of my biggest issues in my particular case, because eventually it escalated. My case escalated like yours as well. But this is the crux of the issue, because if the judge at that point had said, like, look, I appreciate your honesty. You're admitting that you have this drug addiction problem. However, we have the best interests of the child as our main priority in family court, so we're only going to give you supervised visitation. That should have happened in your case and should have happened in my case. For all the viewers that are watching, for policymakers who are watching, for judges and attorneys who are watching, for social workers who are watching, and mediators and evaluators in the court system, I really want to bring this point forward. And I'm not saying that anyone with a drug addiction problem should be on supervised visitation forever, but there should be some kind of monitoring in place, because there's no guarantee that someone with issues like that is not going to relapse at some point. And at least there should be some kind of process in it, right? Some kind of drug testing, and then, some kind of step-by-step just monitoring on how it goes. And so you are in the same boat as me. So you're dealing with unsupervised visitation, and like in my case, your daughter comes back with marked changed behavior. What kind of behavior did she exhibit?
It started off slow, like, I don't want to go, I don't want to stay the night, I want to stay with you. It escalated to different types of behaviors. And you got to realize this child was like 2.5 at this point. So the communication between somebody that age is really hard as a parent to decipher what she's saying and what she's really meaning by it. As a parent, it's disheartening to see your child uncomfortable. At the same time, you want to make sure that you're protecting them if something is happening. And so some of the behaviors were just, typical changes in, my house is different than daddy's house, and daddy has a different life than mommy has. And to lots of fear-driven based things, like the pictures on the walls, tapestries that he had hanging up with skulls and things like that. It started off like that, and then it became her coming home and laying on the floor saying that it's all her fault, and that Sean's friends put holes in her body, and things that don't really make sense. But as time goes on, you're trying to put the pieces together, trying to figure out what's going on. We had one major issue was that the father wanted to take baths with the child. And that was a big concern, because the child was taking a bath with her family member, and she said, this is the way daddy likes me to lay on him when I take a bath. And it was so disturbing to the family member, who was a girl in the bathtub with her, and that the family member got out of the bathtub and was very uncomfortable and came and let our family know. And at that point, we went and talked to the judge. There's some behavioral problems. These are some concerns. And we basically got blown off. Like, that's too bad. Some people do skin on skin contact. The judge just told the biological father, if you're going to take baths with the child, make sure you wear a bathing suit. And that was the end of it. The behavior still escalated over time to to immense emotional charges, and self-harm, and depicting suicide, saying she doesn't want to live anymore, screaming in the back of the car, in fits of rage before and after the visits, just emotionally sobbing, kicking the back of the chair. Please, he does bad things to me. He's mean about my family, just comments that she would make, and you could hear the intensity of her not wanting to go. And I continued the visits with hesitation. But at one point, when she started causing self-harm, banging her head into the wall, scratching her face until she was bleeding, I had to stop it. There was a reason this child was behaving that way. The reason was not anything to do with my lifestyle, our family. We have a wonderful, loving family. There had to have something going on that was not okay, that was instilling this much fear and anger and frustration. And a tremendous amount of fear. This child would be waking up in the night. She would be checking all of the doors and the windows, making sure he wasn't going to come and get her. He had made threats to her that he was going to hurt her family members. At one point, she came home and said, I was looking through a jar of rocks and there was a bullet in the bottom of it. And I asked Daddy what this was. And Daddy said, this is the bullet I'm going to put in your mom's head.
Oh my God.
This was immensely stressful for this child. She had tremendous fear that her dad was going to hurt us and hurt her family that she loved. So that was part of the emotional problem that she was having, the nightmares. Mom, I'm going to miss you so much and you're going to go to heaven and I just want to die too. These are some comments that a 4-year-old was saying to me on a regular basis, and it always coincided with visits with the father. So that was the one part of it. The physical part of it still escalated. Her before I stopped visits, she was using her body to demonstrate different types of dances that Daddy liked to watch her do. They were naked. They were explicit. They were fun games that she could do and thought they were fun and could laugh about, but were highly inappropriate and were very concerning. It got to the point that I put her in counseling, tried to get diagnosis, what's going on. I had tremendous difficulty getting any counselors to do one-on-one visits where I could get any type of information. Besides, she has PTSD. That was part of the reason why she was having these issues. She has an attachment issue. So they gave me a list of different things. Now, keep in mind that I did stop visitation. I had contempt on me. I did get held in contempt by the courts. At that point, we went back in. I let the judge know. I had sent the judge letters. This is the behavior that's been going on with my daughter. It is not okay. Can we do something about this? After the contempt hearing, the judge was like, I don't believe a mother would make this up. If I find that what she's saying is true, I will terminate your parenting rights to the biological father. He stopped visitation 100% and asked for a parent evaluator to evaluate within 30 days and get back to him. The first week of the evaluation.
Hold on, let me stop you there for a second. One of the questions I have coming up as you're telling me the story, did CPS get involved at some point in your case in this part of the story?
Yes, the bathtub issue, I called CPS and said, I'm not sure what to do about this. This is an issue. I described the behavior. They said that they had a lot of cases. And at this point, they didn't have any reason to open a case based on the information that I had given them. They said to keep an eye on your daughter, keep her safe, do whatever you need to do to protect her and keep her safe. So as far as the scratching of face, the preschool teacher had talked to the child, at which point she's a mandated reporter, so she did call CPS. I called CPS at that juncture too and explained to them they could not open up a case at that time. So when we went to the parent evaluator the first week in, my daughter told me, disclosed the sexual touching and the abuse that she had endured. And it was very concerning. The first thing I did was call the pediatrician's office and say, what do I do with this information? Do I bring her into you? At which time the nurse said, no, you have to call CPS. I did. And at that point, they had opened up a case. So
what did I do with this information? What did CPS do and the pediatrician?
The pediatrician was informed and knew the behavioral problems that Mahaley had, and I kept him in the loop on that. CPS opened up a case, had talked to the parent evaluator who had been evaluating the child, and the child had also disclosed to the evaluator. CPS opened up a case. I was assigned a caseworker, Miss Corey McGovern. I gave her the information. She put a protective order on Mahaley. An investigation went on, which concluded to Sean having a polygraph, which Miss Corey McGovern gave the questions to, and he passed. So at that juncture, they twisted it onto me, saying that it was my home life, that I had caused mental injury to my daughter, that was the case.
Yeah, so it got turned on you. Yeah.
Yes.
So same thing happens exactly in my particular case, where the behavioral problems are very similar. My daughter would also bang her head against the wall to the point of bleeding. And it's extreme anger issues, bedwetting, the lights on during the day, at all times, always having the lights on. She would follow me around the house everywhere I go. So your entire description of it is almost identical of what I went through. And I actually complied to the court orders because I didn't want to get slapped with the contempt, which is what you ended up dealing with. But I tell you, it doesn't matter. In the end, we all end up walking the same path, no matter what you do, it seems. And that's what this show is about, to show the viewers that this is happening with some type of, almost like we're following a script, like a playbook of how these cases develop. No matter what choice you make as a mother, you end up losing. And very important also for the children, like if my daughter watches this show, for her to realize that I really tried everything to stop this. She would ask me and say, like, my dad's doing things with me I don't want to do, and if I say no, he doesn't listen. Like, how do I make him listen to me? I couldn't, I had to explain to her, you have to go, otherwise you have to go live with him. And she didn't understand that. I said, no, I don't understand it either, but this is how it works in the United States of America. And yeah, like your daughter, my daughter also became suicidal at a very young age 7. She handed me the kitchen knife, asked her to end her life. And like in your case, CPS was called by the teachers who she disclosed abuse to, and CPS didn't do anything. And I remember there was a mom at the school at the same time that my case was developing, who was dealing with similar issues, and CPS had told her that CPS doesn't do anything unless they see cigarette burns on the skin of the child. It has to be that severe before they actually do something. So, and I want to put that out there for all the CPS workers that are watching right now. If you do not listen to the signs that a child at this stage of the game is putting forward, if you don't take the mother serious, then it's a very big chance it's going to escalate in a very, very serious and dramatic and tragic way. Because it's at this juncture that the system should have stepped in for your case and for my case. And this is where the system is completely and utterly failing the children and the mothers. So at this point, you're in court, and Sean is asking now for full custody because he has the contempt on you. So he has more leverage in the family court situation. And at the same time, he has admitted to court that he has this severe drug problem, correct?
Yes, he did go to rehab. So he went to rehab and was was having clean urine. So he really built up his case to appear as though he was this concerned father, and that I was just this mental crazy person, and that the child would be in the best interest to live with him, even though he has had a tainted past, that it would be in her best interest. And as the case with CPS went on, there was disturbing things that were, I'm sure I am not the only mother who goes through this, who is wondering, how does this happen? How does my daughter say what she said to authorities? We teach our children, if somebody does an ouch touch, you need to tell somebody that you trust, an adult that you trust. And my daughter was so brave, just like yours, to tell people that she trusted, people that said that they were going to help her, people that said that they would protect her. I mean, she was going into a forensic physical interview. Probably not a lot of people know what happens in it. It's very traumatic for anyone, a rape victim, an adult woman rape victim, much less a 5-year-old child, to endure something like that. And she did not stop telling her truth or her heart. She told the doctors. She had forensic interviews. She had 2 of them. They were recorded, and they got some information, and she did tell them, and they said they would protect her, and they did not. And what they did do was come to my house and take my daughter and give her to the person who was abusing and hurting her and causing this harm. It's unbelievable to me that they would do that. And this particular caseworker had already had several lawsuits done against her. It's recorded. She was not doing her job. She did not do a full investigation. She did not contact the school teacher, the pediatrician, any of the counselors. A counselor reported that it would be very traumatic to introduce this child or for her to have any contact with the father. They went against that. They placed her in his home, and she's been there for almost a year now. And since I've had very limited contact with her. I had to do supervised visits for 8 months, 1 hour a week for over 6 months until I graduated to 2 hours a week at random times at their choosing, that I had to maneuver my whole life, my work schedule and everything. And please remember this, that I never was charged with a crime. I went to court over 8 times. Yeah. And not one time was I able to present any of my evidence to a judge. I was labeled founded as causing mental injury to my daughter, which causes me to lose my income, which causes me to have a background check of an abuser, which means I cannot even volunteer at my church nursery with my 2-year-old. I cannot do a lot of things because of this. Never charged with a crime, no court dates. I've appealed over 4 times to have it removed so I can continue my education and my work in the medical industry, and that's been taken away from me.
It's outrageous. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. Here's the abuser. He's got full custody. You're the one who's tried to protect your daughter. Your daughter has disclosed to several authorities. They know what's going on. This is all documented. The father is admitting to his addiction problems to methamphetamine and crack cocaine, and he gives a couple of clean urines, and then takes full custody from you. I mean, it's just unheard of, and all because of one particular social worker who went after you, and this, I see this in a lot of the cases, that there's like one particular social worker who will have some kind of revenge on the mom, and interestingly enough, and tragically enough, and I don't know how about your case, I know the caseworker in your case is a woman. In my particular case that spans 2 continents, 3 courts, 90% of the individuals involved are women. And here's my message to these women. What the hell are you doing? You know, yeah. I don't want to just quote Madeleine Albright here. There's a special place in hell reserved for women who don't help women.
Correct. This caseworker in particular, anybody can Google her name, Corey McGovern from DHS. You will see the $1 million lawsuit that she was a part of 3 weeks before she came and took on my case as the intake caseworker. That's her picture you see on the screen. You can go onto the U.S. Observer and read our story about the caseworker and her past. She did not help a little girl who was raped, and the person that raped this little girl admitted it. And you can go on and read there. And that was not the only issue. There are several other families that have published information about their case and how this caseworker has just destroyed their lives. She took away another mother's children and went out of her way for years to keep the children away and bragged about it. You can read that in the article or online publishings. So when it came down to the family court date, and we knew of the involvement of DHS and the caseworker who was there at our family court hearing, it was tremendously disheartening to think and to know that she was going to be going out of her way to make sure that Sean would have full custody. In fact, she had verbally spoken that to more than one witness and said, the mother will never get full custody. I'll make sure of it. So completely frightening to go in, knowing this caseworker's background, understanding how the situation was, going in hoping, let's just go in and settle. At 50%, at least I can see my daughter. I can keep tabs on her. I can have more time with her. I can get counseling for her, and hopefully get some healing, and we'll just take it from there. It's just a horrendous situation. That happened in May of this year. There was 50-50 with stipulations. CPS said that they wanted me to have a mental health evaluation, somebody from their campus that they chose to do the evaluation, that I was to pay for it, and the case was closed. And in the 8 months that the case was open, not one goal was set for me. Not counseling, not drug testing, not anything. No goals whatsoever. So for them to want me to do a mental health evaluation, I had no problem doing it. But when the sum of the money comes up of, $2,000 to $5,000, and I had just taken one 10 months ago. 10 months ago, I took one and passed.
Well, and then the other thing is that even these evaluations are often done by fathers' rights evaluators in my particular case, that was also the case. He noted certain things that have never been duplicated in any other tests that I've taken, and I've taken at least 4 more tests with other mental health experts, and they said none of what this man stated in his report has any validity regarding your mental state. So he was probably paid off, and later I once did you know how you can check someone's email and see if they've secretly BCC'd someone on an email, and it turns out that that my ex-husband BCCs him still on emails, and this has been going on for 7 years. It's ridiculous.
It's so unfortunate. I just can't even believe how it gets that far. You know, I mean, it's just a setup. It's what it is. The CPS wants me to do a mental health evaluation with somebody that they pick on my dime when there's no case even open.
Right.
How is that to the benefit of the child? What does that have?
It has nothing to do with the child. It's tactics to divert the attention away from the fact that the father has a methamphetamine and crack cocaine problem and is an identified child molester, to putting everything on you, because they have somehow have to make up some kind of story as to why they have made this decision. So now they're going to just go after you, bombard you with insanity, take you, not only your child, but make sure that you can't work anymore, so you have no income. So you're going to look in a picture of the courtroom. Now all of a sudden you're the one who's supposedly unfit. I mean, yeah, I can make someone unfit too. Give me a position of a judicial position, and I can make someone unfit, and in a flat second, you know. So and so let's look at why these things are happening. I think that is extremely important to do, because like you, I was baffled when this happened to me, and not just I was baffled, my entire family, my friends, who all knew that I'd been working as a college professor for many, many years. I had my own business, worked for big clients like Warner Brothers and Nike and Mattel. I, had my own art gallery in Manhattan, in New York. It's very, very successful. And here I am all of a sudden painted as, whatever they want, they just throw whatever that sticks to the wall, whatever false allegations, to paint you as this horrible, dangerous, crazy mother, to justify placing a child with a drug-addicted child molester. Now, like I said, once this happened to me and I kind of recovered from the shock, I started researching all of this. And I remember when I first came across your case, this is also something that I referred you to. What I found out is that this is actually a federally funded father's rights pro-abuse industry, and you can click on all these links. We can click on this one, for example. I'll take you to a research page that shows all the fatherhood programs that are getting federal funding. This is very important for the viewers to look at and for the mothers to look at, to see what you're up against. Mothers do not get any of this funding, right. Neither do children, but the fathers do, right? This is what the fathers' rights have accomplished since the 1980s. And obviously we are dealing with an entire industry that is now based around this father's rights agenda, which is geared to taking the children and placing them with abusers. A lot of the decisions that the judges are making is based on Richard Gardner, who was a pedophile and promoted pedophilia, and basically stated that if mothers report sexual molestation of their children by the fathers, then they have what he called parental alienation syndrome, which turned out to be completely bogus, horrific term that he coined that doesn't exist. It never made it into the DSM. It's nonsense. But unfortunately, that whole PAS theory has been used by judges till this day. It's used against mothers in most of these cases, if not all of them. So, he wants the children to stay connected to the abuser and tell the child that sexual abuse by the father is normal. He, blame, he basically teaches judges, or he taught judges how to place the children with the abuser and erase the mother from the lives of the child. And this is what they all respond to. And the problem is that they make money off of this. All right, the system makes money off of this, and you can see here the numbers of what this results in. And you can go onto this page and click on these links and see how all of these programs are connected, how the father's rights have infiltrated the AFCC, the Association of Family and Conciliation Courts, and various other such organizations like the Children's Rights Council. So this entire industry is set up to place the child with the abuser. Why? Because everyone makes money off of it. So it works like a corporation that profits from its victims. And of course, when you're going through this is not where your state of mind is at. You don't know anything. As a mother, you have no idea that this is going on. So you walk into this landscape of, a hellish landscape with, fiery winds of hell that you and your child go through, and try and explain this to a 4-year-old. That was my problem too. Like I started getting information as we were going along, but I can explain it to my daughter. My daughter would say, like, how come you can't protect me? I mean, you're an adult. You're supposed to be able to fix these things.
Yeah.
And I think you also brought up a really important point where when you stated that, our children courageously share what's happened to them to all these different adults and all these different authority figures, and then it's almost like they get punished for telling.
That's exactly what happened, Geerte. You hit a really amazing point. My daughter, in fact, was like, I don't understand. I did what I was supposed to do, being that she was told by preschool teachers, Sunday school teachers, family members, if somebody hurts you or touches you in those places and hurts you, tell somebody. She did the right thing. She did what she was taught. She told her heart, she told her truth, and she told the authorities, the people that say they were going to protect her. And what ended up happening was anybody who knows my daughter, she is verbally advanced. She speaks her mind. She went into the counseling session and told her counselor, you lied to me. You told me you were going to protect me from him if I told you what happened. You lied to me. And of course, they tried to say that that's something an adult would say, that a 4-year-old child wouldn't be prompt to saying things like that. But people that know my daughter know that that's something that she would say.
They'll use it against you. They'll use anything that the child will say against you. Yeah,
that's actually what happened, Geerte. There was nothing. I was told not to talk to her about it, not to tell her when the next time I would be able to see her was. I was kept away from her for weeks and weeks with no contact. And still to this point, I am supposed to have 50-50, which the orders have not been signed. And the biological father deems when I can and cannot see my daughter. And I take what I can get, because anything is precious to me. Any piece of time that you get with your daughter or your child that's been taken is so precious. it's difficult to explain to her. It's probably the worst situation I have ever known in my life, and I pray that no other family has to endure this in the future. But to look at my daughter and see her hide underneath the bed and scream and cry because she doesn't want to go back, and me as a protective mother to force her, her to get back into the car, to take her back to somebody who may do something horrible to her later on. It's just the worst feeling. And I never know what she endures when I'm not around. I never know until she comes home and tells me or shows me. She has had cigarette burn put out on her. She's come home and I'm like, what is this? I've taken a picture of it. There's been other pictures that I've taken, and it's just not acceptable. And the fact that I love my daughter, and a natural instinct for a mother is to protect them. Lions, tigers, and bears, any other mammal on this planet, their natural instinct is to protect their young. And to have that, your rights as a parent literally taken away unofficially, and you not even be able to protect her because of the system is so broken and torn up. It's the worst hell on earth that you could even possibly fathom. And it's really difficult for others who are not in this situation to understand what that would be like. And a lot of people don't want to address the issue of child abuse, which is hard to get the message out that I found as far as the corruption and things like this, because people just can't, their minds close down about the child abuse. It's really hard.
I mean, it's hard for us to understand, let alone for people who don't go through it. The information that I just shared on my website is something people don't want to look at. They don't want to accept the fact that this really is the reality, and not just for you and for me, but for 2 million, at least 2 million protective mothers in the United States alone. And if we're looking globally, we're probably talking about triple or a quarter that, quadruple that amount. They don't want to look at, they cannot comprehend or accept the fact that the system truly is not just broken, like you said, but actually geared towards abuse.
Right.
Abuse is where the profit is at. We take your child and put your child with the abuser. You're guaranteed, like you said, like a bear or a lion or a tiger, you're going to fight for your child. So here you are now going to spend money on attorneys, on evaluations, guardian ad litems, evaluators, yada, 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 yada. So all these people are now making money off of it. They love abuse, and they want it to keep going. And this is why your case hasn't been settled. They will keep it going until Haley is 18 years old, if not longer. I've seen cases where it even drags on longer. It's like, oh my God. And it's, I don't know how these people live with themselves. It's one thing to be a social worker and to go after, to seek out mothers to just exact some kind of personal revenge on them, because I mean, what's that? Your case, my case, just show that what's really necessary is a multidisciplinary team that's put on cases like this. People are all paid an equal hourly government wage, so there's no financial competition. Like I always say, human rights and children's rights and financial incentives don't mix. So that element needs to be taken out. And we need possibly jury trials. So it's not a one biased judge who has some opinion about you, and then based on an opinion, not even on evidence, makes a custody decision about your child that results in a childhood full of molestation and abuse. But let's go back to that trust issue with the kids, because I struggle with this point. My daughter, once she heard that she was going to have to return to the United States to live with her self-admitted drug addict father who had at that point become an identified child molester. She stopped eating, and she said to me, I can't do this. I can't go back. I don't want to see. And she testified in court about this. And she was 9 years old at the time. She testified to the judges that she didn't want to see her father again. That she was abused by him, that she didn't even want to visit him. And all of that was ignored, which goes against all the international treaties around this point. But the problem, really, the results for this, for your daughter and my daughter, is that these children have no trust in adults.
No.
They have no trust in authorities. My daughter became very cynical after all of this. I went on the run with her, and at that point I became in contempt of court when it all came out. I couldn't comply with the court orders, and she was so cynical about the world. She'd say, like, why did you put me on this planet? Why did you? You had no answers to that. How can, as a mother, how you're put in this ridiculous situation, and you somehow have to not explain this to your child? There is no explanation. I mean, I can't even imagine what it's like to be in our daughter's shoes. They're probably angry at us for not being able to protect them, and we're angry with the authorities that should have protected the children and should have applauded them for being courageous at sharing.
Yeah, right? They should be applauded because a lot of children don't. A lot of cases, children don't do it. They don't say what's happened to them, and parents don't know for long periods of time.
Yep.
You can see that.
Only 1 in 10 children will tell someone they were molested. And, Jasmine, if you are watching this show right now, I want to tell you that I am so proud of you for being courageous and sharing what happened to you. And, that by itself is just awesome. And what I really, would like to use this opportunity for the show, if there are any adult survivors of incest, to contact me and brainstorm with me what we can do, because I envision a point where I'm going into schools, primary schools, to talk about this with the children. Like, what can we advise the kids to do? Right. If they're getting molested? This is a real problem, right? Because there's probably children watching the show right now that are getting molested by their fathers or stepfathers or grandfathers, and they worry because if they're going to tell, now they're going to get placed in full custody of the abuser. Right.
It's terrifying.
This is a real problem. Yeah, it's a real problem. There's like a no way out in this.
It's just definitely terrifying for them, I know. And you can see how this trickles into their whole entire life. Ever since this happened with my daughter, and I've been discussing it with friends, I've heard so many stories from people that I never would have known had this happen to them. Everybody knows somebody who this has happened to, or they know of a story. And it is a grand pandemic that so many people have been touched by this in their lives. And you can see the destruction unfold, whether it started when they were younger, no matter what degree of abuse, it trickles through their whole life and affects everybody else who comes in contact with them in their life. All of these other problems, drug problems, alcoholism, abandonment issues, all of these other issues that our children and other children, like you said, are going to have to deal with for the rest of their life. And as an adult, I would love to hear from the adults that have overcome some aspects of that, or that have more knowledge on it, so that we can help our children as they're growing to get through some of these issues that we may be facing as the years come.
And prevent it from other children, from future generations to happen, right? And I'll take you back to my website here, to the reflection page on my website. You can see here that through this Kids for Cash custody child trafficking revenue machine, an estimated $800 billion per year is generated in the United States alone. And these are not just, individual institutions that are inflicting this. They all work together like a grand orchestra of misery. The judicial system, CPS, a foster care system, a pedophile mafia, the child porn industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and of course the drug trade, because they're setting our kids up to become drug addicts, because how the hell are they going to now go through adolescence and not go totally nuts without having to suppress their emotions somehow? So there's a big chance that they're going to use drugs themselves or self-harm, or act out in promiscuous ways and become teenage parents themselves. Develop severe mental health issues, and that's obviously beneficial for the mental health industry. If you wrap all of it together, it is at least $3 trillion a year of profit, the harming of children, which is more than the global illegal weapons and drug trade combined. There have been some really high-level whistleblowers like Georgia Senator Nancy Schaefer, who started exposing this once they did the same research I did. And I'm sure Nancy Schaefer had her hands on a lot more information than I do. And she started going around the country talking about this. And she was murdered with her husband as a result. 42 million U.S. victims of child sex abuse alone. That's a lot, people. I mean, how can we live with ourselves if we allow society to be like this? This is like an evil agenda. I can't put it any other way. So the problem for this is that a lot of these cases end up in a tragic way, and I hope for us it won't end up in this tragic way. But it can happen that mothers and children don't survive the infliction of the harm. I want to bring it to my fatalities page. There were 2 protective mothers this week who committed suicide. Kate O'Connor and Kelly, may they rest in peace. Yeah. There are no words for the agony that they have gone through to get to, commit such an act. It's incredible. I want to use this opportunity to offer my sincere condolences to their family members, to their children, who still have to live with all the abuse, and now a mother who's no longer there. My plea to all the protective mothers out there who are watching right now is, let's use this motto: not over our dead bodies. Okay?
That's right.
Let's fight this. Let's not kill ourselves. I mean, that's not the answer. I understand the pain is excruciating, but it's not an answer to the issue at hand, and it's definitely not an issue, a solution for our daughters, because at some point our daughters are going to be 18 years old and they're done with the family court system.
Right.
And yes, they'll have a childhood of abuse, but that doesn't mean they don't have several other chapters still ahead of them in their lives that could, offer healing. I mean, that's what we hope for, and that's what we work towards.
I do too want to send my condolences to the family members who are in such grief. I understand not wanting to live. I understand not wanting to feel that pain anymore. I understand being afraid of using your voice and telling the world of your story and your situation out of fear that something else will happen. But I found that for me, my power is in my voice. My power to help my daughter and to help anybody else's daughter is to use my voice. I'm an adult woman and I have the right in the United States to some degree to use my words and to express myself. And until that day comes, I will use it in every platform that I possibly can to share the injustice of what is happening to family units, to what is happening to our children, what is happening in our government agencies, and the corruptiveness that is polluting our society. I want to encourage all the mothers that are sitting silent, wondering if they have enough strength to continue the next day. You do. You have more strength than what you even believe that you do. You get up, put your pants on, know what your fight is for, and stand strong. If you need help and you don't feel strong that day, reach out to some of us that do have a voice. We'll encourage you. We will help you along. We'll help motivate you. We'll get you some resources. You're not alone in your fight. We all have good days and we have bad days. I cry some days, almost every day. I don't sleep in the nighttime sometimes because of the situation that's going on. And I'm going to share those emotions because I believe that other mothers can relate to them in your private moments when nobody else is around and you're on your knees asking God, why is this happening? What can I do? You're not alone. And that's why I'm doing this. I want my daughter to know that I put in a fight for all I could and I didn't stop one day, and that I'm going to expose this and I'm on her side, and I am going to fight for justice for her and for other children and mothers that are protective over their children, and that not on my watch, as long as I've got breath in my lungs and I have the ability to utilize my voice and to spread the word and call people and try and make a difference, I will continue my fight. And I will fight for you too. You know, any of those mothers out there, I'm with you. You're not alone.
Right.
So that's why I'm doing today.
I think you are very courageous for immediately going to the press. And I am also, and I'll share my screen again and share that article that was done in your case, because your case is fairly recently developing. And here we have investigative reporter Edward Snook, and I just want to thank him for doing the investigation on your case. In my case, it was Michael Volpe in the United States who broke my story. And he was the first person to actually look at my file, more so than my attorney that I paid $60,000, which is interesting. And Michael Volpe wasn't intimidated by my bullying ex, and he looked at all of it and he made his conclusions and wrote his article, and that was empowering for me too, because I realized I need to put it out there, and you did that, and I'm so proud of you for having the courage to come out there and name the names of these individuals. We have here Corey McGovern. You even put the name and the picture of your ex. He's right here. Everyone can see what he looks like and recognize him. He's an identified child molester, should not have your daughter in his custody. Everyone knows now he's outed. And let's look at the judge that inflicted these gross human rights violations on you and your daughter. Jackson County Circuit Court Judge Ronald D. Grensky in Oregon. So you have been outed right here on Hell is for Children, and everyone now knows that you are a human rights violation inflictor and a pro-pedophile judge. So this is a wonderful article. I'm really happy to see it. I understand it's not for everybody to go public. I really understand that. There are fathers who will go and murder mothers. Here we have, of course, the children who committed suicide while being held hostage by their father. But the fathers can retaliate in various ways. The fathers are known to murder the mothers who will fight for their children. There's a list over here. These are all clickable links, by the way. When you click on these links, it'll take you to other internet pages with the stories of these individuals here. This list of the children murdered by their father is extremely long. So that's another way that the fathers will take revenge. Again, these are all clickable links that will take you to the individual stories of all these children. It's a long list, and we should scroll through it, because you know what? All these children that have lost their lives through the system, they all deserve attention. And, I wish there was time for me through these shows to click on all of these cases and mention them by name and with what happened to them, just like we do when there's a memorial for the 9/11 tragedy.
Right.
And this is just a tip of the iceberg, because there's literally millions and millions and millions of them. It's just what I grabbed from the internet, what I was able to find. And then there are other ways you can get retaliated against. You can get gag orders, which, by the way, is illegal from what I understand regarding our free speech. And some protective mothers also get jailed for speaking out about their cases, which you can find here under my in my jailed database that I created. And again, these are all clickable links. They'll take you to the individual stories of these protective mothers who were jailed as a result of fighting for their children. However, if you are smart in creating a website and you don't name the last name of the father, like for example here I have a post about what just happened to me last week with the father of my daughter, and I just call him Dave H. Right? I don't mention his last name. I block out the name on all the evidence that I post. So there are ways to do it safe. There are ways to be careful. Other tips that I would like to suggest to the mothers is to check your devices for spyware so your email does not get hacked. That includes your mobile phone, your cell phone. Check those for spyware. Change passwords often. My bank account was hacked. My email account was hacked. These obsessed abusers will go to any lengths to ultimately they want you to kill yourself. So that is the last thing that you should ever do. Right? Even if you just breathe for today, that's enough. And I also like how you just mentioned that all the emotions that you're feeling while you're going through this are valid. The emotions of anger and severe grief and desperation, they are part of that journey. You can try and resist some of them so you can function at least. It helps to have work to distract yourself from being in that story all day long. I think that's helpful. What other things do you do to survive through this storm of terror that you're in?
I do a lot of praying. I really do. I believe in God and Jesus, and for me, that's something that holds me together. My faith in the Lord and His promises to us are what gets me through it. And I use other things on a regular basis. I use aromatherapies. I use music to help me. I use just being around a support system of loving people, places that make me feel good, that don't spark a memory of something that was horrible. But most of all, I try and stay in the moment. I try and look around and look at the wonderful miracles that I see even through this tragedy. I look at my little 2-year-old little girl and how blessed I am that she's with me and she's been by my side through this whole thing, that I get to see her grow and that she was not taken. I get to see the amount of people that, reach out on my Facebook page and share their story with me. So there's just a lot of things that I really hold on to dearly to just try and get through it. But I also just take the moment. If it's too overwhelming and I've hit my mark, I accept that. I acknowledge that and be like, I've done all that I can today. Right now, all I can do is breathe. And if nobody understands that, then they don't understand it. But this is for me. And I have to have this moment, whatever it is. If it's that I need to cry my head off, if it's that I just need to run as fast as I can, as hard as I can, and go out into the woods and scream, then that's what I do. I give myself permission to own that emotion. And then when I'm done, I put my superhero badass mama, protective mama suit on, and I go back at it again. And that's what I do. So I don't know if any of those things will help others, but it helps me. And so that's what I hold on to.
Yeah, you sound like my sister. Like you and I are on the same track. It's exactly what I'm doing. Own your feelings, go through them. If you resist them, they probably last longer. And I had another protective mother who really taught me how to, in the midst of all of it, still find moments to really enjoy the little things in life, which are actually big things. Like I go dancing, once a month. I just dance like 6 hours in a row on these great little dance parties here in the Netherlands, and it's just wonderful. I can just let everything go and just have a wonderful time with people who are conscious and aware and awake, and that's just beautiful. Or just sitting at a lake and watching a sundown, and even if it's just 10 seconds of that day that you can enjoy it, I make that's like my gem for the day. I put that in my pocket, in my virtual pocket, so to speak, and I say, today wasn't all bad. There were some beautiful moments in that day, and that makes the picture, it's not as black and white as my mind is trying to make it, but I have to allow myself to let those moments come to me.
Right.
It's surviving, and not just surviving, but also allowing yourself to, like you said, have those feelings, go through them, and still claim your life, claim your space, claim your time, because ultimately, this is not your fault. This is not my fault. And I see a lot of the mothers, they say like, oh, but what if I had done this? Or what if I'm going to do that? And right, which I totally understand. But I think it's very important to be self-forgiving. This is not what we wanted for our children. It's not what we wanted for ourselves. It's like ending up in a war zone. You didn't want the war, Right. Who wants war? It's like you can't blame yourself for it, which is very important. You did nothing wrong. We just happen to have children with individuals who weren't able to handle that type of responsibility and ended up taking it out on us, which is really their issue and their karma. We're just caught up in it. And eventually it will pass, hopefully sooner than later. So at the moment, let's go back to where you are right now, because you said that you had some supervised visitation for a while. And tell us how, you're supposed to have 50-50 since May of this year, but the father hasn't allowed this plan to to manifest clearly, because he's not allowing you to have Haley for 50% of the time. So
Right.
how's that developing now?
Right now we're at a standstill. After court and we agreed on 50-50, the order should have been written and signed by the judge. We had a parenting plan in order. The days and times were all worked out when it was going to start. None of those things were executed. The judge never signed the report, and since May, the attorneys have been going back and forth on the agreement that was put on order. Both disagree on what they heard on the recording, what they read on the transcript. So it's just like you said, it's all about money. They all want high paychecks, I believe. It's unfortunate. I have not gotten the time that we agreed upon. I don't know when my next court date will be. I've been requesting to go back to court because if the other party does not agree upon the order that we agreed on in court, then we need to go back into court. At this juncture, my parents that have helped me raise my daughter have missed out on this whole year. They were not giving any parenting time. They helped me raise my daughter. They were a major part in her daily life. They have been excluded from her life since the day that she was kidnapped from us. And now they are going to be petitioning the judge for their own parenting time. And I believe that in that same courtroom, we're going to go in unified, letting the judge know we have not received our parenting time. I have not. And that we're going to be requesting. I don't know when that court date is going to be yet. I'm hoping to hear back soon. But until then, I'm at this juncture, I get random Friday nights from 5 to Saturday at 5, just one 24-hour visit. In the last 2 weeks, I've only had one overnight visit, but I do go out of my way to go to my daughter's school and be active. Yesterday was her picture day, so I brought her several dresses for her to, several dresses for her to pick, and still try and show her that I'm participating in her life. So, you know, I can't do that all of the time, but I try and make the efforts with that. And the U.S. Observer, I was told, is having another article coming out soon as well. So at that point, that's just where we are. We're hoping for things to change. We're working on things to change. I will not give up. I will continue to fight. So.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm thinking about when I'm listening to you talking about the attorneys that are kind of going back and forth and arguing about A, B, and C, is you might just want to take over from them and start writing your own motions and, get more in charge of that process, because like you said, and like we talked about, the attorneys like it when these cases are dragged on and they want to make a lot of money off of it, so they are in no hurry. But your daughter is in a hurry and you are in a hurry, and I also really like the fact that you mentioned the grandparents and the effect this is having on them and missing out on their grandchildren. So they haven't had any contact with your granddaughter. I mean, with your daughter. I would think yes, during the time that you have her, right?
Correct. During some of the supervised visit times, they were the only ones that could go and pick her up to do the transporting from the town that she was living in to our town. Very minimal amounts of time. We're talking just driving from one place to another, and that's it. And not even a length of time for them to reconnect. And so it's been very difficult on not just the grandparents, but we have a close family. We did all of the activities. We're close in our community. We live in a very small community, a rural community, and we were a part of our community. And those people were a part of her life on, year round, and everybody is missing her. But tremendously difficult for the grandparents. Like I said, they helped raise her. They were every much a part of raising my daughter as I was. And that's been a tremendous loss for them, and suffering. There are times that you feel such an emotion of mourning a loss of a child who is still alive. And the short periods of time that I do see her, it's almost like a figment of my imagination. Like I just saw a ghost, because I never know when the next time is that I'm going to see her. And that kind of mourning is difficult on the grandparents as well. I'm sure for many grandparents out there that have helped raise and have been a part actively in their grandchildren's life, and they suffer just as much, as the mother or the parents, in this. But it truly, there are times that long periods of time go that I don't see her, and I don't hear from her. I don't get phone calls from her. And it does feel like I'm mourning the loss of someone who is not dead. And how do you get through that? How do you hold on for the next moment that you see her? It's very challenging on so many different levels.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a really good point about the grandparents, because they kind of have a double loss. Not only do they lose their grandchildren, but they also see their own child in extreme grief. I feel for my mother. She's 82 years old, and she's developed a heart condition and a nervous disorder as a result of the situation. And when I had it, like I said, I had the hearing last Tuesday, and the judge, she started the hearing saying, "Well, Miss Frenken, you won. You won the case." And it was just like, you know what? This is not about winning.
No.
This is about what this is doing to the child, to me, to her grandmother, to her uncles, her aunts, the dynamics in our family, and I'm sure the dynamics in the father's family, because I cannot believe that they support this. There's basically an entire family from two ends ripped apart in conflict, misery, grief. This is not about winning. This is
Right.
not in the best interest of the development of the child, who should be with the primary caregiver, which in 99.9% of the cases is the mother, simply because biologically it is created that way by God, right? Or whatever your belief system is, that is the nature and reality of our biology. And that needs to be respected. I mean, it's ridiculous that we even have to make that point, as far as I'm concerned. But I feel for the grandparents. This is not the way they like to spend their elderly days. And again, it's not about winning. It's a very strange arena, the family court arena. But I would certainly stay on the attorney that's on your case. I have learned that you're not an inconvenience to them. You need to bug them like every day,
Right.
and fight for your child. And sometimes do that in a very graphic way, and just explain to them, like, look, my daughter's getting molested as we speak. While you're going to your meetings or doing whatever. My daughter's mental health, physical health, and emotional health is depending on what you are doing in this very moment. So I need to get on with this case, like right now. This is urgent.
Right.
There's nothing more important than the welfare of children.
Right.
Yeah.
You hit it right on the nail on the head. They're children. They're innocent. They didn't ask to be brought into this world. They didn't choose what's happened to them. They need a voice. Part of what was really upsetting in my situation is that we're supposed to have an agency here by the name of CASA, which is a court-appointed a children's advocate, who's supposed to be the voice and here give that child a voice to the courts and to the CPS system. My daughter was number like 2,432 in my small community, my small county, on a waiting list for that CASA worker. So she had no voice. I was her voice. And they took that voice away. And she remains silent. And now at this point is so frightened to say anything to anyone about the abuse that she's still undergoing, because she's already lived it the first time. She was punished for doing the right thing. And now she doesn't want to go back to the adults that she doesn't trust, that she has trust issues with, and tell them, yes, it's continuing to happen, because just like her, we don't know what they would do. Would they stop all contact then from then on out, and she wouldn't even have any time with us? What would happen? And so these children need and deserve and have the right to have somebody to protect them and to look out for them and to be their voice. And when injustice happens, they deserve the right to have, as a human being, all human beings should have somebody there to say, this is not okay. This is not okay. What has been done, what they're going through is not okay. And we need good sources of income, of support from, I don't know who. I mean, honestly, I don't know who can help. My attorney is, I owe her $10,000. I can't come up with it because I can't get my normal job back. So it poses a problem for me going up on my own in front of this judge who clearly has no intentions on hearing any evidence and doesn't want to hear the case and doesn't want to hear anything, and go up against an enormously aggressive opposing attorney. And I have before, and went in with no attorney on my contempt, and she blew me out of the water. I couldn't even say 2 words, present any evidence, because she trampled me. And having that kind of fear going into the courtroom when literally my daughter's life hangs in the balance of if I can get a word in edgewise is terrifying. But then I also have to rely on an attorney whose agenda I'm not sure of. I could make assumptions, but nothing is being done. And the order should have been signed. My daughter should have been able to go to counseling. I should be having 50-50 parenting time with her. My parents should be able to have their relationship with her, and we're just stuck at a standstill. So, these children deserve to have a voice. They really do. And they deserve to have somebody to fight for them and to be their voice and to not be discarded because you are a protective mother fighting for the right to be the voice of the child. I mean, obviously a 5-year-old, no one listened to her. She told them she was scared. And I'm scared. There are times that I'm very scared. I've been driving in my car from a store at a stoplight and have my, at the time, 1-year-old, and now she's 2, in the back of my car, and have somebody drive up next to me on the side of the road at the stoplight, roll down their window, point their finger like a gun, and tell me that my bullet's coming for me. It's happened more than once. And everybody has disregarded my attorneys. No, I've not been able to present any of this evidence. The biological father has trespassed on our property. There were numerous 911 calls made that he needed to leave. That wasn't brought in. My attorney didn't want to deal with any of that. Information I obtained about his prior abuse to a 9-year-old girl when he was younger and a juvenile came into light. That information was given to the attorney and nothing was done. It was like there's so much red tape about what's happened, and not only has he done it to my daughter, but he's done it to somebody else in the past. His family knows what he did, and it's just not okay. It's not okay that he is going to an elementary school, that my daughter is inviting friends to go have slumber parties and go to birthday parties. And these parents are unaware that this predator is surrounded by little pretty girls that want to play and do dress ups. And it's really putting these children in a bad situation. And these parents are unaware of the situation that their children are being placed in. I, for one, as a parent, would definitely want to know if there was a perpetrator or somebody that had this past or proof of abuse happen that was playing with my daughter or wanting to pick up kids. You know, that's a terrifying thing. So that's where I'm at with that, you know, at this point.
Well, you bring up a really great points. The first thing I kind of want to touch on, because you just, you know, shared a lot of really good information. The 50-50 that you're supposed to have, I don't even think you're supposed to have 50-50. You should have 100% custody, and your ex should be on supervised visitation.
Correct.
He's a danger to the child. He's a self-admitted drug addict. He needs to be monitored. You know, let's talk about that for a second, because you know, in the 1980s, when I was in college, I did drugs too, and I actually started losing some friends around me, and I quit as a result. And I looked at the numbers of people who actually recover from addictions like that since I became an outreach worker for the National Institute of Health and a researcher for the CDC. And from the research that I did, I saw that only 13% of drug addicts actually get clean and stay clean. So these types of numbers need to be taken into consideration by a judge, by the judicial system, and this is why we need these multidisciplinary teams to look at cases like this, because obviously the judicial system is either not informed of this kind of information, or they truly are evil and they truly want to harm children for money. I'd like to think that that's not happening, that that's not the agenda. It seems to be the agenda from what I'm looking at. But let's assume that there are some people out there in the judicial system that actually have a good heart and have good intentions. Then we need to educate those particular people on topics like drug addiction and the chances of recovery. They're very, very small. These individuals need to be trailed for and monitored with drug tests, and not just urine tests, because they can be cheated real easily. So there's a lot of complexity to these cases, and that's why we need experts on these cases, and not just one social worker and one judge who go have a beer together on Friday afternoon and make a decision about the life of your daughter, and just because they might not like your face or the color of your hair or whatever the hell it is that they base their decisions on. So 50-50 in your case? No, I don't think so. I think if I was in one of those multidisciplinary teams as an expert, which I think I am at this point after everything I've gone through and the thousands of mothers that I've seen in their cases, 50-50 is not a solution for your case. There are a lot of fathers' rights people out there screaming that they want 50-50 as a mandatory rule for all divorce custody cases. I don't agree. Because 50-50 for you means another 13 years of being stuck with this demonic entity in the life of your daughter and the life of yourself and your parents and your brothers and sisters and cousins, and like you point out, the people around him, right? The people in the schools and the extracurricular activities. And these fathers can be extremely charming. Sociopaths and drug addicts can really put on a good mask and appear like they're very together and friendly and blah dee blah dee blah. And in the meantime, what they're actually doing with these kids behind closed doors is are crimes.
Right.
Your ex, my ex, need to be in jail for the
Right.
crimes that they have committed against our children. They need to be
Correct.
in jail for child molestation, and they can only see your child supervised. That's how it should be in a
Right.
normal world. Let's talk about the stalking, because my ex is doing that too. You were saying that he has people drive up next to your car, roll down the window, and make gestures of a gun to your head.
It would be my assumption that it was him. It just seemed too ironic, that somebody would say, your bullet's coming for you, and make that gesture coming right up to me in my car when we had gotten the information that, the bullet that Haley found in the jar was meant for me. So I would make the assumption that he had some involvement in it. So yes, there has been, especially after Mahaley disclosed the information that she did, there was a lot of frightening things that were surrounding my family and I, and nobody seemed to care about that. They said it wasn't an issue. I rose the issue about my daughter is frightened because she doesn't want to say anything because he says he's going to harm her Nana and Papa and her sister and me, and that was an issue as well. And so another issue is that currently he admits to smoking marijuana. It's legal in Oregon, but it's not legal for my daughter to smoke it. She's, just turned 6 years old. But my daughter repeatedly tells me that he blows smoke in her face. I've told CPS, I told my attorney, I've told people, and they just blow me off. Not one time have they drug tested her to find out if she had any drugs in her system. I asked, is it a cigarette? Were you outside? No, it was from this glass pipe that he has. And she explains to me what it is. She says she cries and he's in the bathroom smoking it. And when he opens up the door, she's crying, saying, I want to see my mommy. I want you to talk to her. And he blows the smoke in her face and tells her to go and lay down and go to sleep. So that's just an example of one of the times that she's told me, that's not okay. And the best interest of the child would be that she's in a healthy environment. She currently, and has been for the last year, living in a 1-bedroom apartment, sleeping in the same bed with the abuser. We told CPS this. They said they have no safety concerns whatsoever for Sean at all, or their environment, which I don't know how it is in the Netherlands, but I do know that there is policy and procedures that CPS are supposed to uphold and stand by. And even foster parents here in the United States have to have a bedroom for the children. They cannot be sleeping with the foster parents. There's certain stipulations. And those things were broken. Those things were ignored. And that's not in the best interests of the child. We went so far as to notify State Representative Stark's office in regards to this situation, the court hearing, the caseworker who is still currently working for the state of Oregon and who is still having power and control other families and children's lives. That's tremendously terrifying to know that she is out there and other children's lives could be in harm's way. We've reached out to the director, Sykes' office. He's the director of the Department of Human Services here in the state of Oregon. We've reached out to Governor Katie Brown. We've left messages, we've sent emails. I have gotten no responses from them in regards to either clearing the founded on my record after 4 appeals or having some insight onto this caseworker and the situation as to what happened. is tremendously difficult when you climb the ladder and you're not getting any answers and nobody is wanting to address these issues or give you any type of information. And they really just want you to be quiet and not talk to the media and don't tell your story. My attorney, my current attorney said, I'm very concerned that this article came out. I'm concerned that you're spending this money on, publishing your article, when in fact a very dear special friend of mine by the name of her first name Sandy, is a concerned citizen on her own accord who felt that she needed to get to the bottom of this, was opening up a door for an investigation to be done on our case in helping my daughter. And I feel blessed by her because without her, I would not have had that article come out and expose these people for what they've done. And to me, she's an angel for that. But we've reached out to public figures, to to senators' offices, the governor's office, the head director of DHS for our state. We're just not getting anywhere. And mostly is the big concern for this DHS worker who has had numerous lawsuits that the state of Oregon has lost on her employment. I mean, she has caused major harm and has lost the state millions of dollars because of the way that she's handling herself, her authority, and her malicious prosecution on other parents. Not to mention the welfare of these children that she has placed in harm's way. That's one of the things that I would like to have looked into. This woman that you see on the screen, Miss Corey McGovern, has been in several lawsuits with the state of Oregon, costing the state of Oregon millions of dollars to fix her error in not protecting children. You can look her up on Google. She needs to be held accountable for what she's done to these children. It is her job to protect. That's what Child Protective Services is. She has not done that on numerous cases, and the state of Oregon has had to pay for it. There needs to be some accountability for keeping an employee like this and allowing her to have that much power over children's safety and protection when she clearly is not capable of doing so.
You let her have it. Well done. That's exactly what I do in the interviews. It's just like named names, named individuals. We need to expose these people. They need to be held accountable. I mean, that woman just needs to go to jail as far as I'm concerned. I'm in the same boat as you are. I've, knocked on hundreds of doors, literally. But some will start to open because after, I've been doing this for, 2 years now, knocking on all these doors. And at some point people start to see like, all right, yeah, this is an outrageous case. And
Right.
you just don't stop. Don't ever stop. Keep on banging on all the doors, and you're going to be the mom that just never goes away because they want you to go away. So become the opposite, right? Become the undeletable mom, the unerasable mom.
That's right, Geerte. That's exactly right. They want you to fall down, lay down, and be silent. And you feel that. You feel like you don't want to get up. You feel like, oh no, the fear is too much. It's really causing me stress. The trick is to do the opposite. You don't run away from Goliath. You run towards him. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. And make a lot of noise and expose these people because just like you, not on our watch, not on mine. And until this gets rectified, until there has been some justice done, I won't stop. Even if I got my daughter back today, I would still fight for this cause. There's too much pain, there's too much injustice, and there's too many people being too many mothers being subjected to so much pain that they want to end their life. And I don't want to see that happen. And I just want to be part of a cause of a movement for innocent children who need a voice and need protective mama bears and warriors to stand up and say, no, not on my watch. It's not going to happen. So.
Yeah, by many means necessary, as far as I'm concerned. There comes a point that if the justice system doesn't help us, and if policymakers don't help us, then don't be surprised if other groups like Anonymous and WikiLeaks get involved and start doing their own audits of where the money is going and what's going on here in this, family court mafia, so to speak, because what else can we conclude? Just back to the safety issue with the stalking. The police here in the Netherlands is aware of my case. My ex sends criminals to my house in the Netherlands to threaten me about money, and they installed these cameras, or they showed me how to install these 24/7 recording cameras that you can actually follow it on your cell phone. So it's recording 24 hours a day, and you can just log in and see what's happening. It's very important to do in case you're going to get harassed at your house. I would also install these at your parents' house, because if you have any footage of them, you have proof that you're being harassed. You'll be much stronger in your case. Record everything, save everything. Whatever evidence you have, make sure that you back it up on a Swiss encrypted cloud server that cannot be hacked by the US or by the EU, and give the username and the password to someone you absolutely trust. In case anything happens to you, that information, all your files, all your evidence is right there for that person to then release to the authorities, just in case something might happen. So of course we don't hope that anything happens to you and to your family, to your parents. If anything, I hope this show contributes to you getting justice you deserve, and your daughter to be reunited with you in 100% of your custody, with your ex getting I don't wish your ex anything bad. I do just believe that he needs to be monitored or go into inpatient treatment or whatever, and should never have unsupervised visitation until he can prove that he's been clean for, I don't know, an X amount of years, let's say 6 or 7 years. Then you can talk again. So I hope that, the people that are watching this show today or watching the YouTube recording out there can see the issues that protective mothers are dealing with, the horrendously outrageous situations that we end up in, and that policymakers will step in to, approve laws that prevent this stuff, and by creating multidisciplinary teams that look at our cases from every end before making such decisions, because your case is outrageous just like mine. And I can only hope that the show contributes to a quick ending, somehow. I'm glad to hear that you will continue to fight also for the other protective mothers. That is what I plan to do too. They've made warriors out of us, and now we're unstoppable. So thank you so much for being courageous and brave and sharing your story. You're doing an awesome job. Keep at it. I'm on your side. We're together. We're strong. We need to unite. So together we are going to, we are to change, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that's about all the time we have for this show. And I'm sure I'll see you around in all the activities we're up to behind the scenes to make changes. And give your daughter a big kiss and hug for me when you see her, because I haven't seen mine for 2 years and haven't had any contact in 16 months now. So do it on my behalf, my daughter's behalf. I know what you're going through. You're not alone. And I'm here for you. So thanks for being on the show. Thanks for sharing your story. And thanks everybody for watching another episode of Hell is for Children. I hope to see you all next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.